Now, ever since I've been a runner, I've always wanted to know how to train properly, what my lactate threshold is, and basically some professional advice, which as a standard like amateur runner, you very rarely get the opportunity to have. But today I'm heading over to Birmingham University to the track and attending a runner's retreat session called the Physiology Workshop. It's a full day session run by professionals that is designed to help you learn how to train, how to run better, where your lactate threshold is, and basically become a better overall runner. Now, I'm really looking forward to this. It's something that I've wanted to try and do all my life, to be honest with you, as long as I've been a runner. And it's going to give us some really scientific insight into how my body is made up, how it deals with training, what my lactate threshold is, how I can transfer oxygen around my body, and basically how I can become a better runner. And obviously I am taking you along with me to enjoy the ride. Now, I've already asked permission if I can video well in advance, and I've been told that I can. However, if other people don't want to be on the video, then I've just got to be a bit careful about that. So let's be honest, I don't know how much I am going to film. I do want to put everything into the session, so I will get as much footage as I can, and then after the session we have a full briefing so we can understand the results, and I'll run over all the results with you when I get back. But I'm going to pop up the PDF that I've been sent up on screen now, just so you know what the makeup of the day is. So basically we're going to arrive between 9:30 and 10:30, so we've got an hour to arrive and meet the other people that are there. From 10:30 till 12, we then have an introduction and a session briefing. So basically they're going to tell us what's going to happen on the day, what results we can expect, and just a breakdown on how they're going to schedule all the running part of the session of the day. From 12 to 12:30, we then have a warm-up to get us in a position where we are ready to actually do the full-on session. And then 12:30 to 2:15, we have the sub-max profile session. Now that's going to be the actual session. They're going to take our bloods, they're going to do all the technical and scientific things that they need to do to get all of our running data. And I believe we are going to be having the privilege of using the wavelight technology to ensure that we are keeping our paces to where they need to be to. So yeah, that's really excited, can't wait. We then have a bit of lunch before we get showered, changed, and a session debrief, and they kind of let us know how to interpret the results that we've got before we close off the session at 4:30 with a Q&A, and then we're allowed to leave and come home. At which point I'll come home, hopefully I'll have all the run data from the day, and I'll be able to go through it with you guys in a little bit more detail and let you know exactly how the session was run, what sort of results we got from it, and what I've taken away from it. Without further ado, let's get changed, get on the road down to Birmingham University. Let's go! Take the foot. Oh, come on! Yes, well done.
Honestly, that's okay.
Thank you.
For you. We'll wait for you.
Yeah, 2.7. Heart rate 134. Session's done, bit of a warm down, and then lunch. Talk about the results, but it was good. Full review when I get home.
Okay, so I am back from my session day at Birmingham University with runners retreats. What a wicked day. Absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to dive into too much detail now because we've got maybe 3 or 4 days to wait before our full lactate report comes back, at which point I'm going to close off this video, go over my results, and then talk about what the day was like, how it was structured, and what I got from it, and if I would recommend it or not. But what I did want to do as soon as I got home is we got a goodie bag, which I wasn't expecting at all. But as soon as we got there, we got a goodie bag, and I'm just going to share what's in it. Like any good goodie bag, you like to have a look and see what's in. So we got a Runners Retreat t-shirt and a free buff as well. That's quite a cool one, a nice buff and a nice technical t-shirt. High Five isotonic hydration drink, Acti Plus drink, precision hydration tablets. Now I've just run out of mine, so these are very, very much welcomed. Oh, chapstick. And also a precision fuel gel. Now it's I've not tried this brand before. I'm going to put the pen down because we took the pen with us, with a little notepad that we had to take notes on the session, and all the scientific parts of the day. So precision fuel gel. Now this has got 100 milligrams of caffeine and 30 grams of carbs. So I've not tried this, so I'm going to do a bit of research and I might give them a try. But yeah, that's it. That's what we got in the bag. We've got about a 3 or 4 day wait until they produce our full report, which would be a full lactate report. So which will break our kind of training down into LT1, LT2 and give us our steady, threshold and high intensity paces that we need to work from, and then we can transpose them into our heart rate zones. So I'm really looking forward to receiving all of that information, at which point I'm going to kick back into the video again and I'll go through all the results in great detail and talk about the day. Okay, so I've finally got my report back from Runners Retreat and we're going to go through it together. I'm learning. I hope you'll learn by watching this. So the first thing to point out is I'm not a physiologist, I'm not a sports scientist, I'm just an average guy, average runner, and I'm interpreting this the best way I know how after sitting the session from last Sunday. So if I'm getting anything wrong, please point it out down in the comments and let's all learn together. So the first thing I'm going to pop up is just the lactate threshold diagram, so we can both understand what we're talking about when we look at the report. So as you can see from this slide, this is the lactate threshold diagram. It shows low intensity, moderate and hard intensity and high intensity, and broken down by LT1 and LT2. So basically we start in zone 1 and 2, which is generally our low intensity work. LT1 basically has a threshold which is dictated by the speed at which the lactate starts to accumulate in the blood above baseline levels. This speed can typically be sustained for a few hours, so is key for marathon performance. This is why a lot of people do their 80% of their training, if you've heard about the 80-20 rule, 80% low intensity, 20% higher intensity. So this is why we train at low intensity, to build our aerobic system, to get our body more proficient at supplying the muscles in our body with oxygenated blood so we can run for longer, and as we train we get faster and faster at that low intensity rate. Now many people judge that by either zone training, so zone 1, zone 2 training, or heart rate training. For example, I do a lot of low heart rate training, which is generally that zone 2 stroke zone 3, which helps build aerobic fitness. As we move into our moderate and hard intensity, the threshold then is LT2. So LT2 basically is the maximum speed at which lactate can be cleared from the blood at the same time that it's being produced. At that speed, generally, blood lactate will continually rise and exercise becomes unsustainable for longer durations. This is generally our kind of threshold and tempo speeds, so speeds that we can maintain for maybe an hour. Closer to the LT2 threshold, we generally start doing, you generally start to fatigue quite a bit more, and you can't sustain that kind of pace for much longer. Basically, you are clearing out lactate just as quickly as the body is producing it, which is why you can't sustain that kind of speed for longer periods of time. You then push over the LT2 threshold into high intensity work, which is generally kind of interval training and short bursts of speed. So that's basically the diagram to highlight LT1 and LT2 sections. And now we're going to jump into the actual report. So we'll start at the top. We did 8 times 800 meter repeats with approximately kind of 60 to 90 seconds rest in between as we were getting our lactate measured. My first rep was actually really high on my lactate reading, so they've not actually used that, but I'm going to go through each of the 7 now just to kind of talk through what my test results were and what my heart rate was. So the first rep we ran at 9:39 pace and the heart rate was 118. My lactate actually tested at 6. So I had a quick chat with one of the guys and they probably said that it spiked a little bit due to the strides that we were doing earlier on, so they probably wouldn't take that one into account. So the second rep we ran at 8:47 pace, and actually my lactate then had settled and recorded at 2.0. My heart rate was 126. Rep 3 we ran at 8:03. I recorded a 2.7 lactate measurement, 134 heart rate. Rep 4 we ran at 7:27 pace, 4.8 lactate recording, 148 BPM my heart rate. Fifth rep we ran at 6:54 pace. My lactate read at 6.5. And my heart rate was 152. For some reason, rep 6 hasn't got a lactate reading on it. I did do one, but it's not there, and there's no heart rate there either. I think that's my fault. I don't think I gave them my heart rate on rep 6, but rep 7, we ran at 6:02 pace. My lactate read at 13.2 and my BPM was 161. So taking all them into account, my lactate 1 and 2 thresholds are LT1, my threshold is 8:15 pace, and a heart rate of about 132. And my LT2 threshold is 7:22 pace at about 149 BPM. So how do we take that information and convert that into useful training data? So we'll move down to the training zone section. So the diagram that I showed you earlier on, my LT1 threshold, so anything below LT1 threshold is generally easy mileage. So it's recovery mileage, it's easy running, it's the mileage that you can do and sustain for a long period of time. So generally your marathon pace mileage, things like that. So at the moment, based on my report, my recovery heart rate is around 122 and should be done no faster than 9:10. My easy paced running, which I do a lot of, I should be looking at keeping my heart rate within 122 to 132 BPM and pace between 9:10, and the top of that LT1 threshold, looking at no faster than 8:15, which is really quite interesting because I like to do a lot of been doing a lot of low heart rate running over the past 18 months, and my low heart rate MAF BPM is 131, so that falls pretty much right in there. And I've been running around sort of anywhere from 8:45 to 9-minute miling and feeling like that's relatively, well, quite easy. That actually correlates with what I've got here, so that's really interesting. So from there we move into that space between LT1 and LT2, which is generally that steady tempo kind of area. Now this is quality mileage between LT1 and LT2 thresholds, and it's typically around half marathon and marathon pace. So within this kind of steady state, my blood lactate is elevated, but it remains under control. So we can generally sustain sort of longer tempo runs between 5, 8, 9, 10 miles at that kind of pace, in that steady kind of state. Now, based on my report, I'll be looking at keeping my heart rate between 132 and 144, and the dictated pace is around 8:15 to 7:23 pace. So looking to the top end of LT2, that's kind of the tempo range. So efforts are getting harder, you're fatiguing a little bit more, and we're getting close to not being able to deal with the lactate that's being produced by the body. So we're looking at continuous running of maybe 20-30 minutes, or we're looking at longer interval sessions. And again, we're looking at keeping my heart rate between 144 and 150, and the pace there is around 7:30 to, well, 7:33 to 7:11. And as we push above LT2, this is much harder work. We're looking at interval kind of pace. We're looking at top end 3K pace, for example. This is where basically the body is producing more lactate than we can actually clear, which means that we can't run at a sustained period of time at that kind of pace. So it's generally kind of hard efforts, intervals, and just basically balls out, if I'm completely honest. And based on the report, it's saying my heart rate is probably going to be above 150 and pace is around 7:11 and faster. So that's basically how the report has been broken down. And for me, this gives me a really good indication of my different training zones, what I should be keeping my heart rate at in those training zones, and what kind of pace that I should be able to run at in those zones. So for example, if I wanted to go out and do a 15-mile run tomorrow and I was going to do it easy, I know that as long as I keep my heart rate within 122 and 132 and my pace between 9:10 and 8:15, for example, I should be able to clear lactate, keep on running at that pace, and be okay. So don't get me wrong, you can't look at these results and go out and do a 50-mile run at your easy pace, because that's not how it works. You've still got to train your body, you've got to train your endurance system, you've still got to be able to cover those miles. And that all comes down to your training. But this report gives me a clear indication of my heart rate zones, so I can go out and train more effectively, and what kind of paces I should be looking at that I can run within those heart rate zones. So tomorrow, for example, I've got a half marathon race, and based on this, I am sort of 7 weeks into marathon training, so I'm in a pretty decent situation at the moment. So I realistically should be able to go out and run at my lower end LT, between LT1 and LT2, so that steady pace, which is keeping my heart rate anywhere between 132 and 144, and if I should be able to look at a pace between 8:15 and 7:33. Now that is a wide kind of variant of pace, but if I keep it at the lower end, so 8:15 for example, that'll get me a PB tomorrow. So this report is really interesting, has brought some really interesting information that I need to study a little bit more and start tailoring my running and my pacing to this. I've already updated all my heart rate on my Garmin watch, so I've now got dedicated heart rate zones that are more scientific than what has been calculated for my Garmin watch when I've gone out for a run. And if I'm completely honest, Garmin wasn't too far away. I only had to make some slight adjustments to what the heart rate zones that had been set by Garmin. So if anybody's wondering, does Garmin set pretty accurate heart rates? For me, yes, it does. It was pretty much bang on with like zone 1 and zone 2. I only dialed it down by 3 BPM at the top end of LT1, and other than that, it was pretty much bang on. So I was quite impressed with that. Now my plan really is to put all this into action through my training, and then I'm going to book back in to do this test again. I think it's around November is the last one of the year, and then I'm going to compare the two, and I'll do another video and compare the two to see if training using this lactate report has helped me kind of get a little bit more scientific with my training and develop my pacing and improve my overall fitness and my aerobic fitness, so I can deal with lactate a little bit better. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found that informative. If you've seen something in this report that I've not picked up, please throw it in the comments below. If you've got any questions, throw them in the comments below. As I said earlier, I'm not a physiologist, I'm not a sports scientist, I'm just an average runner that's done a lactate test, and I'm trying to interpret the results. So apologies if I've got anything wrong. We're all about learning here. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and it helps other runners find my content on YouTube. And please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. I'm doing a race tomorrow, as I said earlier, and I'm going to be making a video about that as well, and then covering the next kind of 9 weeks worth of marathon training as we hit London on April the 21st. Thanks for watching. Hope your training is going well. I'll see you on the next one.